Let's go.
Okay.
Gordon Herbert, first of all, thanks for visiting us here at Dyn. And of course, these days in Germany, we have to start with talking about football a little bit. Did you watch the first German games at this European Championship?
Yeah, I was in Munich on Friday and attended the game. Very impressed with the German team. Just how they attacked on the offensive end and how they took away space and time on the defensive end. Played very aggressive, very proactive. It was very nice to watch.
Mm-hmm. And you got a jersey because you visited the team a few days before the tournament.
Yeah, I visited them 1 week before, and they gave me this jersey, and so it was a pretty neat visit, and yeah, I really enjoyed it.
What was the visit with the team like? I mean, you met Julian Nagelsmann, you already talked a lot about your conversation with Toni Kroos, who of course is a very special player in this team. What are your memories from this meeting?
I watched practice first of all, and I was very impressed with practice. The demeanor of the players, the body language, their effort, their attention to detail, it was very good. Talked with the coaches, Julian and his coaching staff, very impressive. Then I met with the players and talked a little bit with the players for about 15 minutes. And then I had a very nice conversation with Tony afterwards, so that was very interesting. I mean, you know, even a better person than he is player, which says a lot. Humble, down to earth, seems like a normal person. It was very interesting, and you know, he's going to go down as one of the greatest athletes in German sport history.
Definitely. Can you compare him to one of the guys in your team?
Hard to say right now. I think you know, what's he won, 5 or 6 Champions Leagues, and yeah, I don't think that's ever going to be done again by a German athlete. And it's hard to say. That's like winning 5 NBA titles, and right now that's hard to compare to anybody in any sport.
That's true. That's true. Any other thoughts, maybe especially from the conversation inside the coaching staff, that you can take over to the preparation for the Olympics now?
We just had a very open and really good dialogue, and you know, I talked, Julian talked, the assistant coaches talked, and for me it was, you know, they asked questions, I talked, I asked questions. It was a great learning experience for myself too. And when you talk to other coaches in different sports, they're much more open, and they can give you a different perspective that maybe you might see from your own colleagues in your own sport. So that was very interesting for me.
Are you still in contact with Julian Nagelsmann now during the competition, during the tournament?
No, you know, he's focused on, I don't want to bother him.
Sure.
You know, I invited him to come to our games, our practice afterwards. Same with Toni Kroos. So we'll see. I mean, they're focused. They're in the zone right now, and I think that's the way you got to respect that.
Sure. I think you start the preparation for the Olympics in 10 days now in Munich. Are there any plans to visit a game in Munich, for example, with the team together?
Yeah, my idea was to start in Munich because hopefully we can go to the quarterfinals on July 1st or July 2nd. So I'm just hoping we can get some kind of tickets for our team, that our whole team and staff can go. I think it would be very neat. I mean, it's a great stadium, great atmosphere. I really hope we can work it out.
And to get the tickets, that will be there. You have to call Julian Nagelsmann to get the tickets, or?
I'm not sure how we get them yet.
All the best for that.
Yeah.
Maybe last question about football. Is the German team able to win this title?
It's interesting. Before the tournament started, I was reading one of the Canadian papers, and they were talking about the Euros, and they picked the German team to win. And yeah, I think any one of 4 or 5 teams could win. You got to be good. You got to be a little bit lucky. You got to have a good draw. A lot of things have to fall in place. But so far, I've been very impressed with them. And you know, to me, it looks like the team to beat.
Impressed. Another question that comes to my mind is, you can't compare the situation from the German football team to the German basketball team when you look at the whole country. I mean, there's a lot of pressure, even, for example, from the politics? Everybody is putting a lot of hope into this team. Pressure on the one hand, maybe also honor. Is that something that you would like to have as well for the basketball team, or are you happy that you can do a little bit the things on your own, that you are a little bit out of the spotlight, so to say?
Yeah, I mean, obviously football is a little bit different in Germany than basketball. It'll be interesting when we start up in July what the atmosphere around our team is. I think there'll be more publicity, more pressure this year. But, you know, I go by the term, the pressure cannot exceed the pleasure of the journey. And we're going to enjoy what we're doing, just like we have the last 2 years. And, you know, when I compare our team from last summer, I compare it to the 2014 German football team that won the World Cup. Both teams had an identity of never give up, relentless, enjoyed playing, played hard, played as a team. And I think the German public, that's why the German public related to us, because what they saw in 14, they saw both teams resonated with the German public because of the identity.
So this means you don't have to change anything in the preparation for the Olympics, or do you have to change anything? Because now, I mean, there is this title, the World Championships from the last year in Manila.
I mean, people ask me who the toughest opponent is in the Olympics. My answer, the toughest opponent is ourselves. Going in, I think the mindset is really important, that we understand that we need to get better. We need to build on what we did last year if we want to be successful. If we're complacent and feel good about ourselves, we're not going to be successful. So, I mean, this group they're motivated. You know, they want to win. And you know, we'll set the tone in the beginning of training camp, and we'll work on it step by step as we go along.
Is there anything missing in the team when you say they are motivated? Everything you need is already there?
The only thing missing, I've only coached 2 games since the World Cup. That's the only thing missing. I'm more worried about myself than the players.
Why so?
I've only coached 2 games, and for me it takes a little bit of time to get in the rhythm.
I see.
Practice games are great for me because I get in the rhythm of coaching again. So, you know, for me that's important. Maybe
it's like driving on a bicycle. You won't forget how to do it, but maybe you need the rhythm.
No, I have to get into the flow of the game, get into, you know, decision making, different things, and so hopefully it's like riding a bicycle.
Very interesting. Let's talk a little bit about your book. You wrote a book. We know you like to be in the nature, you like to be in Finland in the off season, like you lumberjacking and stuff. Why did you decide to write a book then?
I didn't expect this happening, to be honest with you. I didn't expect the book, the keynote speaking, to come my way. It just came, and you know, people approached me about writing a book. I had a couple offers, and at first I was very hesitant to do that. And you know, but I met the author Jonathan, and we had a very good conversation, and yeah, and we talked about it, this and that, and then I decided, okay, I'll give it a shot.
Give it a shot. And you're happy with the result?
Yeah, I'm very happy. I mean, I think he did an outstanding job, and you know, the book is, you know, about different aspects and different things, and it was just about being transparent and coming out a little bit.
Mm. Is it more like a biography or like a life coaching lecture or something completely different?
No, I don't think it's like a biography. I think it's more of our journey. It's about the players, about team building, about life, and some personal things. I think it's there's a variety of different things.
Did you already receive some feedback, some reactions on the book?
Yeah, I mean, I got some feedbacks and said, Jonathan did an outstanding job, excellent book. I thought I knew you I thought I knew you, but now after reading this book, I figure I did not know you.
Interesting. From people who were part of your journey?
No, people that I'd known for a long time in Frankfurt and this and that. Some people were a little bit taken back by some of the things in the book.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you can step a little bit deeper into the content of the book. I think we have to talk about this crucial event in 2009, which led to an injury. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
2009, I just had a bad fall, spine injury, needed surgery, and I had trouble with the rehab. I had trouble recovering, and then I had issues with stress and pain and different things. And in 2010, I was in training camp with Frankfurt, and I came back to Frankfurt in 2010, late in the season. I coached 4 games late. And, you know, when we had bus trips, I laid on the floor, that kind of stuff. I had trouble sitting still a little bit. In hindsight, I probably came back a little bit too early, just with the pressure and decision making and this. But it really hit me when we were in Prague in preseason camp. And I guess I hit rock bottom. I couldn't comprehend things anymore. I couldn't hold a meeting, I couldn't write stuff, I couldn't communicate really clearly anymore. And I was very fortunate. Gunnar Wupke was there, Klaus Pervis. I was very fortunate to be around people who helped, you know, and always be grateful for the help they got me.
How did they help you?
They recognized I was going through a really tough time when really I didn't recognize it. I was down, but I wasn't sure. Because as players, as athletes, as coaches, we deal with adversity all the time. Mm. And our minds are trained to embrace it and fight through it. And that's what I was trying to do. But it came to a point where I couldn't do it anymore, so it was much more than just some adversity. And I mean, they looked in my eyes, and as one person said, they saw no life anymore. And so they got me help back in Frankfurt in the hospital, and so it was the best thing that could happen to me at that time.
Mm-hmm. What I think is very interesting, on the one hand, you experienced this personal lows, I would say, during this time you were in Frankfurt, from beginning in 2010, but then also from 2013 to 2019, on the one hand. On the other hand, you had your highs in your career. I mean, you built a team with Vogtmann, with Bartel, you reached playoffs, you won the FIBA Europe Cup. How could that go together?
You know, when I had the 2010, I mean, that next year was tough. I was very fortunate to have Klaus Pervis with me, who really did the bulk of the work, so to speak. Mm. And so I'll always be grateful to Klaus. And I had, then the next year I coached in Berlin. I had a little bit of a problem. Then I had a year off where I wasn't coaching. And then I came back, and, you know, I thought I had gone forward, so to speak, gone over the mountain, so to speak, and I was coming down. But, you know, and then I had some other issues. I had to go for another back surgery in the summer of 2016, and probably that was the best thing that happened to me, going to another back surgery, then going to a rehab center in Germany where I could relax, get help, be around people that were going through the same thing I was going through. So that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And then since then, I think I've gone forward.
Maybe we can talk a little bit more about what changed nowadays in the professional business of sports. You just said, as an athlete, you're trained to fight through everything. Is it still the same today? I mean, we are talking about the time that is now like 10, 15 years later than when your injury happened.
You know, it's hard for me to say. I think people look at mental health issues as a weakness, and I still don't think the support system is there. I've had a lot of people kind of write to me now and say that it's really nice that you came out and said this, because they had issues and they were afraid to come out, afraid to go get, especially a lot of men, afraid to go get support. And And they came out and said, we really appreciate you doing this. And that's one thing I talked to Jonathan about this when we were writing the book, and his point was it would be really good that talking about this, because it would help other people maybe seek to get help, that it's not a weakness, that they'll have support.
Mm. Is that something you as a coach try to or have to focus on when you work with your athletes, that you look at someone and you see, well, maybe in his eyes there might be something that is not right, maybe today or maybe in general? Is that something you try to focus on, and how do you handle those situations?
I think I don't really focus on it that much, but you can kind of see the situation, feel the situation sometimes if somebody's struggling and having problems. And I try to get my players to know get to know them very well, that we have some psychological safety, that if they are struggling with something, they can come to me. Mm-hmm. That's what I try to really develop with my players, and they feel comfortable coming to me, talking to me about stuff. And I just think we have to have open communication all the time. So that's what I try to get accomplished.
How often does this happen during a period with the national team, that someone knocks at your door and says, "Hey, Gordy"?
No, it really hasn't happened with the national team. I mean, we have psychological safety where they come and tell me I'm not doing things. I need to change what I'm doing basketball-wise. Mm-hmm. Sure. Which is kind of neat, because I'll give you two examples if I can. We played United States and Abu Dhabi in a practice game. Up 16, we ended up losing in the fourth quarter. We had a lot of trouble against their switching. Franz Wagner came to me the next day and says, "Coach, I think what we're doing against switching, we got to look at it. It's not working. It's static." And so I went back to the coaches. We talked about it, and we came back and we did a couple things different. And I asked Franz, "What do you think? Is this better?" He says, "Yeah, Coach, better." And before we played Serbia, another time in the championship, we beat United States Friday night. We had up all night with the coaches trying to figure out a game plan for Serbia. We had a meeting at 11. We went through the game plan, how we were going to win. Some players went for an optional shoot-around, and one of our players, Daniel Tice, talked with Brett Breimeyer and said, "I think some of the things on the game plan were a little bit unclear." And psychological security, or safety, psychological safety. And so then Brett came to me, we talked about it. The next morning we went through everything, made it real clear. And I asked the players, "We clear now on this?" Because the main thing with the thing, they have to understand how we're going to win, mm-hmm. how we're going to beat this team. And so that was two really good examples, I thought.
Absolutely. I think those are impressive insights that maybe underline the success of your team, because you have this spirit that players are open to knock at your door and say, "Hey, Gordy, something wasn't clear there. Maybe it's just a detail. We have to talk about that," right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have that within this team. We're all in this together. Is there a great hierarchy? Not really. We're all in this together. Yes, I'm the leader, this and that, but we're all in this together, and we all want the same, we're going forward together. We're on a ship together, so to speak, and we're moving in one direction. Everybody's got roles on that ship, different roles to make us go forward. And so I think everybody feels part. Everybody, it's like putting a puzzle together with this team, and everybody feels part of it.
And is that also the reason why you chose the title of your book? I mean, it's Die Jungs gaben mir mein Leben zurück. The boys gave me back, or the guys gave me back my life.
I think I just when I talked with Jonathan, this was his title after I talked to him, and we came to that idea because it's the most unbelievable group of human beings I've ever been around. They're better people than players. They're humble. They care about each other. For them, it's an honor to represent their country. It's just an unbelievable group of players, and I've never been around a group like this. And they, as a coach or as a leader in company, you give a lot of times.
Sure.
These players gave to me. a lot.
That's something that is not very often, probably, in
No,
business life.
No, it's not very often, no.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about JT, about Johannes Thiemann. We had an interview with him last week after the final loss, Berlin against Munich. And he seemed to be, I don't know what's the right word, maybe it was just sadness, maybe he was a little bit disappointed because he saw in that game, in the final series, that his body showed him his limits, where to go. I mean, he wasn't on his top level. Did you already talk to him about the Olympics now, and what kind of player is JT, also with a little focus on his not mental constitution, but his mental game, maybe call it mental game?
Yeah, we talked before the playoffs. Actually, we talked that first game in Munich when he did not play. And then I texted him just, I think, 2 days ago or yesterday, and just to see how he's doing with the rehab and different things. And, you know, he said, Coach, I just need a couple weeks here and I'm going to be ready. I mean, that's his mindset. You know, and for him not to kind of struggle the way he plays shows there was something wrong, because the kid's a warrior. He's a true warrior. He's somebody you want on your side when you go to war, so to speak, when we play, because he gives it his all. He impacts the game in so many different ways, even if he doesn't score. So obviously it'll be a big loss if he's not able to, but I truly believe he'll be ready to go, unless there's something that happens in camp.
Mm-hmm. But you don't know yet. It depends on what happens the next week.
Well, we hope that the rest helps him, and time will tell, I guess. And I mean, there's going to be some moving parts. Guys, you know, we had 8 players just finish their season last week. You know, the biggest thing right now is to get some rest, recovery, get our mind right. You know, the recovery, you know, the physically, okay, but mentally it's just as important right now.
How would you rate the level between mental fitness and physical fitness?
It starts here. If we feel tired, we're going to be tired. If we think we're hurt, we're going to be hurt. It starts here and then goes through the body. Our mind tells our body a lot of things.
And then it's just resting, recovering, taking your time.
Yeah, guys just need to get away from it a little bit. They're not going to lose condition in 10 days. They just need to get away from it a little bit, recover, get mentally ready for training camp. It's not going to be an easy time, but you know, Serbia already started training camp. Mm-hmm. Canada starts on, I think, on the 26th. We don't start till July 1st. So we start a little bit, we probably are the latest one to start. Japan started in the beginning of June. So we're, you know, but I don't believe in a long training camp. I put the emphasis on we're going to come to camp in shape. Because if you're together too long, you get mentally tired. It's too much.
And you have the self-confidence of a world champion, so you can start a few days later. Maybe again, looking a little bit closer on the preparation for the Olympics. We already talked a little bit about the rhythm. Now Oscar da Silva will be part of the team. Is that a pick from you that can change the rhythm a little bit? Is it something you decided on a special purpose, or why is Oscar part of the team?
No, we have the 12 guys coming back from last year. Weiler Bab wasn't with us last year because of an injury. Oscar, Lewis, and Leon were all in camp last year. So we just have, you know, the same group as last year, basically. And we're only going to bring in 16 guys, and then we'll see what happens. And, you know, I don't know if we're going to have 1 or 2 injuries or what's going to happen, or the makeup of the team's going to be a little bit. I mean, for example, Leon Kratzer was good enough to make the team last summer. It was one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make as a coach in 30 years. but it was the makeup of the team. He was in the top 10 players probably. He had an outstanding camp. It was just the strength of our team was at that position, and so that was a really tough one for us.
Do you remember the meeting, the conversation with him when you had to tell him?
Sure. Yeah.
What happened?
No, I think he was in shock a little bit. But he's a great kid. He came to the bus and said goodbye to everybody and wished everybody luck. He's an outstanding person. You know, and I hope he makes it this summer. I mean, I cut him 2 summers in a row, but you know, we had some guys like Leon and Chris Singfelder, Boterman, who really helped us a lot qualifying for the Worlds. And it's tough sometimes when these players don't get to play in the Worlds.
Sure it is. What else are your plans for the next weeks when you meet in 10 days? Are there any special steps you have planned already?
No, we just we'll meet on Sunday, June 30th. I'm bringing in a sports psychologist this year because I think the one thing for us going forward is our mental makeup, where we are mentally. You know, and for me this is really important. And so we'll bring one in just to talk to the players, work with me, work with our coaching staff, and yeah.
Can you say who the specialist is that will help your team?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You already talked a little bit about the players who will be part of your team or who can't make the cut into the final roster. We always all talked a lot about that, and also colleagues. We talked about that commitment thing. You started before the European Championship and said, "I only can play with players who commit 100% to my national team." What has to happen, or is there any chance that something happens that will change that rule? Like, for example, when we look at the last season of Isaiah Hartenstein in the NBA, for example.
You know, when I took the job, I made a vision, and you know, we're going to medal 3 years, and we need a commitment for 3 years. And there were some players that were hurt and couldn't make that the first year. That's normal. But my experience with Canada, we had guys come in 5 days before we played, 3 days before we played. It doesn't work. And the other thing is you need a core group with a national team going summer to summer to summer. That's why Spain was so successful all those years. So, you know, my experience, and then talking to Scarliola a little bit about what they were doing, who is probably, you know, the best national team coach in our era. And, you know, that's the route I went. And, you know, and some guys said they weren't really interested in playing the first year, and that's fine. It's not, the national team's not for everybody, but we need a commitment. If you don't have a commitment in anything you do, you're not going anywhere. That's just my opinion. And to me, that's one of our core values, was the commitment guys made. And I'll give you a quick example. Mm-hmm. I asked the players last summer to come in good shape to camp. They came in great shape. Commitment. Mm-hmm. Commitment to win. Commitment to succeed. And, you know, there's defining moments, and to me, the people defining moments, the human element defining moments are the most important, not the product when you look back on things. Because when you have the people defining moments, the human element, you feel it, you see it right now. Mm-hmm. And I knew when we came in great shape, I knew we had a chance to be good. Mm-hmm.
So, as a summary, no chance for Isaiah to be part of the team because the commitment failed 3 years ago.
No, I talked to Isaiah. I went to Toronto and I met him when they were playing in Toronto. I had a conversation with him. Very good conversation. 2 things. He has an Achilles problem. He was going to get put in a boot, and he's going to be a free agent.
And that's always a problem.
So we talked. We never got into playing with the national team this summer, because right away it was an injury situation, so we never got that far. If he was healthy, would I invited him? I never got to that point.
I see. I see. One question about your opponents.
Who?
A question about your opponents in Paris or in Lille at the Olympics. How did their point of view change on the world champion? Did you already got some statements from other countries that they fear now your team a little bit more or anything like that?
Not really. I just think the Olympics, you know, Jokic will play, it looks like. The United States is bringing a really good team. Canada announced their team yesterday with, I think, 12 or 13 NBA players, a group. So it's just going to be a great spectacle. But again, our biggest opponent is ourselves, our mental makeup, and where our minds are, where we are mentally. This is our biggest opponent. It's not going to be Serbia. It's not going to be the United States. If we get along in the tournament, yes, it will be. But to begin with, our biggest opponent is ourselves.
So first, defeating yourself, and for that, you only need the mental fitness.
Yeah, we need the. You know, we have two choices. We can be feeling good about what we accomplished last year, feel complacent, or we can understand that we need to go build on what we did last year and get better. And if we get number two, we have a chance to medal, in my opinion. And you know, that starts with me and our coaching staff, setting it, you know, with the mindset what we need.
Very looking forward to the Olympics. Last part of our interview, I would like to talk a little bit with you about basketball in Germany, about the BBL. And how far could you watch the last season of the BBL?
No, I watched a lot on TV. I mean, the good thing about Dyn is you can watch 3 or 4 games at one time or different things. So I didn't go to many games live. I live in Hagen, so it's a little bit tough with the travel outside of Hagen. I go to a lot of Hagen games.
Right.
Great crowd, great atmosphere. Love being there. Coach is a good friend of mine in Hagen. But yeah, I watched a lot of games. My opinion, the BBL was a little bit better a couple years ago. Just because the depth of the BBL was better. Now I thought there was a pretty big difference between the top 3 or 4 teams and the bottom 6 or 7 teams. I thought there was a pretty big difference.
How could that happen?
Well, COVID, financially it hit a lot of teams. And sponsorship with COVID, different stuff, everybody was affected by it. And you know, the BBL before COVID was really going. It was really on a rise, and all of a sudden we've hit a bump, we've hit an obstacle, so to speak. And you know, the wealthy survived a little bit, so to speak.
That would be my next question. I mean, we see that players like Otis Livingston, the MVP, or Tommy Cusey as the runner-up MVP, they don't stay in the BBL. They move to other European countries, but not to the top clubs in Europe. What has to change?
The tax system in Germany.
The old story.
Yeah, I mean, clubs have to pay tax into the social system, different things. It's very expensive for clubs. But with that being said, I really believe German clubs have the best infrastructure in Europe. And it's a fight right now. It's a little bit of a fight about where we're going to go with German basketball. You know, and I thought last summer when we won the World Cup, we had a great moment. Now the real challenge for German basketball is, can we make this moment a big movement? So that, for me, that's the big challenge.
Absolutely. But do you worry about German basketball, about the BBL, that the gap might get even bigger?
I don't think it'll get bigger. I think it'll get closer together. And I think it's just a matter of teams recovering after COVID and you know, getting the sponsorship back, and I truly believe what happened last year in the World Cup should help teams. You know, help teams get, you know, people, bigger companies involved, get sponsorship. Because you go around to BBL games, the atmosphere is great. The fan support's great. All right, it's just financially, the financial aspect is missing a little bit.
Let's talk a little bit more about the sport. We have Munich as the new German champion. How would you rate their season and their coach, Pablo Lasso?
No, I thought, first of all, it was, you know, we have 4 national team players there, so it was kind of, I watched a lot of their games. Pablo's a great person. I've known him for many years, and really good person. I think they had up and down with the EuroLeague schedule, different stuff. It was not, EuroLeague is very difficult to play. I mean, especially when you look at Munich and Berlin, they got the long travel to the airport every time. They're on a commercial flight, and they come back, and now they got to travel somewhere in Germany. It's very, very difficult. It's not like Milan or Madrid where they're going by charter flights and different stuff. So it's an extremely difficult schedule. And I thought Munich was a little bit unlucky in the EuroLeague. I think they you know, there's probably 3 or 4 or 5 games they could have won. But yeah, but very talented team.
Absolutely. Who's your coach of the season in the BBL?
I don't know. You know, in my job I have to judge players,
And not colleagues.
but I don't judge colleagues. I don't judge outside in the press. I don't judge people. I mean, I have to judge in my job.
Sure.
But I don't judge people. I mean, my closest colleague is Tuomas Iisalo that was in Bonn, and he's a Finn, and now he's in Paris. He's the guy. You know, we communicate a lot together. We throw things off each other. We confide in each other, and he's the one coach I really communicate with a lot.
How do you see his development now with Paris?
Only one word: awesome.
And
he's become one of the best coaches in Europe. I coached him when he was younger. I didn't see this. I saw a nice guy who was too nice as a player and didn't have a killer instinct in him. Now he's one of the most driven people I've ever been around. He knows where he's going. He knows how he's going. He's developed his philosophy. He's completely driven to almost where he's got that killer instinct in him.
how did he become that person?
I have no idea.
Maybe we can read in his book in a few years. What might be his next step?
Hard to say. EuroLeague, NBA. For me, he's got potential to be an NBA head coach if he goes to the NBA sooner than later. But the NBA's become a young man's league. You got to go when you're young, or you're too old.
So now's the time for him?
Probably. I mean, he's. I don't know. He's done. You know, he's. It's hard for me to say because I know what he's doing. I mean, he reached out to me 2 months ago, a month ago. We talked about stuff. I reached out to him about what I'm doing. We confide in each other in that way and give each other advice. So, yeah. So he's the one person I kind of reached out to and talked to, and he reached out to me and talked to me about stuff. So, I mean, it's very nice to have a relationship with a coach like that.
I can assume that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
What is your next step? Your contract ends after the Olympics.
Yeah. Actually, when I think about it, I'm pretty sad about it. This is the best job I ever had. The best people I've ever worked with. Best players, best staff, federation. Just an outstanding group of people from all the way from the support staff to the players to the federation. So it's, yeah, it's really, for me, it's pretty sad. But I really wish it would have worked out to stay. But with that being said, we had very transparent, open talks with Ingo Weiss and Armin Anders, and it was very open, very transparent. So that was very good. And I think we're going different ways on good note.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very happy about that. But it is a little bit sad, and I still wonder if I'm doing the right thing. If this is the right thing, I still have second thoughts. It's a great job because I could take care of my health. I didn't have the daily
business, daily struggle.
Yeah, the daily things going every day.
Sure.
So it was a great job, and especially when you get older, like my age, it was great.
Mm-hmm.
So it's but you know, I've got to put that behind me and really focus on enjoying the situation with this team. And we have something, we can accomplish something special. 3 medals in 3 years. Who would ever guess that 3 years ago? Nobody. And so that's what we're focused on. And after the Olympics, I don't know what I'm doing yet. I thought I would have it figured out now, this and that, but I don't. Maybe I go to North America, maybe I go to Asia. I would like to stay in Europe, or maybe I retire.
Is that an option?
Sure, it's an option. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Tony Cruz, how he's going out, win the Champions League, going to play at home soil. You know, he could still play for 3-4 more years. I feel I could coach for 3-4 more years. So, you know, it'd be nice to go out when you're on top. Not when people tell you you can't coach anymore and your time's up.
So it also depends a little bit on what happens in Paris, in France?
Well, I hope to get things settled before then. I really wanted to get things settled before I got to training camp. But, because I want to be focused on this 100%. And, you know, I basically said, you know, if I don't get things settled in the next 24 to 48 hours, I'm going to put everything off. Sure. And I'm not doing anything.
Sure.
So maybe I'd go keynote speaking.
Why not?
Yeah.
Last question. Is there anything you are still striving for? Of course, the next win, the next title, but for you personally?
You know, there's a few years ago where our landscape is changing, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I had to recreate myself a lot. I went around and watched a lot of coaches. This is where Tuomas Iisalo really helped me. You know, I confided in him a lot. We talked a lot. I had to recreate myself as a coach. And I had to get better. And, you know, and I still want to get better. I still want to get better. And for us to accomplish in the Olympics, I have to get better. Our team, our game's got to take another step forward. So this is the biggest challenge for me. And yeah, I mean, it's an honor to coach this team, but you know, we want to win a medal, and that's what we're going for. I'll have the players decide what our final goal is. Yeah. So the great thing about this team was not only they're great human beings, but we have high standards. They held themselves to those high standards, and they held their teammates to high standards, which you don't see very often in a team. So that was great about this team. And we have a very diverse group of individuals. You know, we have the quiet guys, Justus Hollitz, then we have the outgoing Moritz Wagner, and so we have just a great group of human beings. So for me, that's the saddest part about leaving. It's not about coaching, it's not about the medals, it's about the group of players we have.
Thank you, Gordy.
Yeah, thank you.